Hold on, did Harry and Meghan just pull off the boldest royal power move we've seen in years? Because what looked like a simple charity trip might actually be the most strategic chess move in the ongoing Sussex versus Windsor saga. Sources close to the situation are claiming this wasn't just about humanitarian work, and if the royal experts are right, William and Kate just received a message they can't ignore. But here's where it gets interesting, and trust me, you're going to want to hear this because the timing of everything is almost too perfect to be coincidental. According to reports from multiple royal insiders, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's recent trip to Jordan carried a hidden agenda that goes way beyond what we saw in those carefully curated photos. Now, before we dive deep into what royal experts are calling a potential truce offer, let me just say, the audacity of this entire situation is something else. And honestly, whether you're Team Sussex or Team Windsor, you have to admit the strategy here is pretty genius. So what actually happened in Jordan that has everyone talking? Harry and Meghan spent 2 days in the Middle Eastern country doing exactly what working royals do, visiting hospitals, youth centers, and highlighting humanitarian efforts, all while the cameras rolled and the world watched. It is alleged that every single move was calculated, every photo opportunity strategically planned. And according to one prominent royal author, there was definitely an ulterior motive at play here. Meghan showed up dressed in all black, looking every bit the part of a senior royal on an official tour, packaging food parcels and listening intently to stories about shortages affecting Gaza. The optics were impeccable, the messaging was clear, and if sources are to be believed, the palace back in London was paying very close attention. Now here's what makes this whole thing fascinating, and this is where my personal take comes in, because I've been following this family drama for years. These two stepped away from royal duties back in 2020, citing privacy concerns and media intrusion, moved to California, built their brand, did the Oprah interview, released documentaries and memoirs, basically did everything except stay quiet. But now, according to royal expert Ingrid Seward, they're potentially sending a message that says, hey, we're still here, we can still do this, and maybe, just maybe, it's time to work together. The question everyone's asking is, why now? Well, the timing is absolutely wild when you think about it. The royal family back in Britain is reportedly dealing with crisis after crisis. Palace insiders claim there's chaos behind closed doors, and suddenly Harry and Meghan pop up in Jordan looking like the picture-perfect working royals, doing exactly the kind of tour that William and Kate would typically handle. Coincidence? Royal watchers don't think so. According to sources, this trip bears all the hallmarks of an official royal tour, the kind of carefully orchestrated visit that requires planning, coordination, and significant diplomatic maneuvering. They visited organizations dedicated to feeding people in crisis. They highlighted humanitarian efforts of Jordanian authorities. They met with officials, and they did it all with the polish and professionalism that reminded everyone, like it or not, these two know how to work a royal engagement. But here's the part that really caught my attention, and this is where the secret message theory starts making serious sense. Ingrid Seward, who's been covering the royals for decades and has written multiple books about the family, claims there's definitely more to this mission that meets the eye. She's quoted as asking whether this is a secret message to William and Kate or a blatant one. And honestly, that's the million-dollar question. Now, let me add my own perspective here, because I think we need to look at this objectively. If you're Harry and Meghan, you've spent the last few years building your independent brand, making it clear you don't need the royal institution. But at the same time, your entire platform is built on your royal connection. It's a complicated position to be in, right? You can't fully break away because that connection is your currency, but you also can't come crawling back because that undermines everything you've said about why you left. So what do? According to these sources, you engineer a situation where you demonstrate value without explicitly asking for anything. You show the world, and more importantly, show the palace, that you're still capable of representing the crown on the international stage, that you still have diplomatic clout, and that maybe, just maybe, the family could benefit from bringing you back into the fold in some capacity. The expert analysis suggests this isn't just about Harry and Meghan wanting to come back. It's allegedly about them positioning themselves as assets rather than liabilities. Sources claim the message being sent is essentially, we're here, we can help, we can do this with you. And as Ingrid points out, that can only work to Harry and Meghan's advantage. Now here's where the Jordan location becomes really significant, and honestly, when I first read about this detail, I had to stop and think about how deliberate this choice might have been. Jordan isn't just any Middle Eastern country. It's reportedly been a favorite holiday destination of Princess Kate, who, according to reports, spent part of her childhood there. So Harry and Meghan choosing Jordan specifically for this humanitarian tour, it's either the most incredible coincidence or it's a very pointed choice. Royal experts are suggesting it could be the latter, that the location itself is part of the message, a way of saying we understand the family connections, we respect those ties, and we're working in spaces that matter to all of you. The humanitarian angle is important too, because let's be real, this is what Harry has always been passionate about. His work with organizations helping people in crisis, his advocacy for humanitarian causes, this isn't new territory for him. It's literally what he was doing before he left the royal family. So in some ways, sources suggest this trip is Harry showing that stepping back from official duties hasn't changed his commitment to service. It's just changed the framework in which he operates. Meghan's involvement is equally strategic, according to these reports. She's been portrayed in various media outlets as everything from a disruptor to a modernizer, depending on who you ask. But her presence on this trip, dressed appropriately, engaging meaningfully, demonstrating cultural sensitivity, it allegedly challenges some of the narratives that have been built around her. It is claimed that every image from this trip was designed to show her as capable, compassionate, and critically as someone who understands how to conduct herself on the international stage. Now let's talk about what Ingrid Seward said regarding the possibility of an actual truce, because this is where things get really interesting. She claims it is very possible there could be a personal royal truce and a reunion in that sense, which suggests that on a family level, reconciliation might be feasible. But then she adds this important qualifier. A professional royal truce, in terms of the Sussexes ever working as royals again, is very unlikely, despite the other difficulties in the family. So what does that actually mean? According to this interpretation, Harry might eventually patch things up with his brother and father on a personal level. Family dinners might resume, the kids might see their cousins, but the idea of Harry and Meghan returning as working royals, conducting official engagements on behalf of the crown, sources say that ship has probably sailed. The institutional bridge, according to these reports, has been burned too thoroughly to rebuild. But here's my honest take, and I think this is important to consider. If the goal isn't actually to return as working royals, but simply to maintain relevance, visibility, and connection to the royal narrative, then this trip was absolutely a success. They got international coverage, they demonstrated their continued ability to operate in diplomatic spaces, and they inserted themselves back into the royal conversation at a time when, according to reports, the family could use some positive press. The invitation itself is worth examining. According to the article, they traveled to Jordan at the invitation of the World Health Organization's Director General, which means this wasn't them just deciding to show up somewhere. This was an official invitation from a major international organization. That legitimizes the trip in a way that a self-organized tour never could. It suggests that regardless of their status with the British royal family, Harry and Meghan still carry weight in international humanitarian circles. They still get the calls when organizations need high-profile advocates. The photographs from the trip tell their own story too. Meghan witnessing food parcels being packaged, Harry engaging with youth organizations, both of them looking serious and committed to the work. These aren't vacation snapshots. These are working tour images. And if sources are correct, that visual messaging was entirely intentional. The claim is that every element was designed to evoke traditional royal tours, while simultaneously highlighting the humanitarian work that both Harry and Meghan have said is their priority. Now let's address the elephant in the room, because we have to talk about how William and Kate might be interpreting all of this. According to reports, the relationship between the two couples has been strained for years, with various sources claiming everything from complete communication breakdown to occasional attempts at reconciliation. If this Jordan trip really was a message to them, as experts suggest, then the question becomes, how do they respond? Do they acknowledge it? Do they ignore it? Do they see it as an olive branch or as competition? Royal watchers claim that's the fascinating part, because there's no obvious right move. If the palace acknowledges the trip and praises the humanitarian work, it potentially opens the door to future collaboration, but also validates Harry and Meghan's independent approach. If they ignore it completely, they risk looking petty or out of touch, especially if the trip generates positive international coverage. The shortage of trucks to take essentials to Gaza that Meghan learned about during her visit, that's real humanitarian crisis, and Harry and Meghan shining a spotlight on it, that's legitimate advocacy work that's hard to criticize. So where does this leave us? According to sources and royal experts, we might be witnessing the opening move in a very long game. The claim is that Harry and Meghan are potentially testing the waters, seeing if there's an appetite for some kind of reconciliation, or at least professional coexistence. The expert analysis suggests this isn't just about Harry and Meghan wanting to come back. It's allegedly about them positioning themselves as assets rather than liabilities.